Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giant football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm Rob. Let's talk about that 53-man roster.
Oh, yes. A lot of men's dreams got cut today short.
And fans.
Sad day in the NFL. So, yes, you're not kidding with the fans thing. There was definitely, every single year, there's one or two shocks that people are like, oh my God, what the hell? I couldn't see this coming.
I was still getting cut.
Yeah, we still got I think at least two or three kind of shocks in this whole list of cuts and keeps and all that kind of stuff. But I will say this, Rob. I don't think we did too bad on our prediction show.
I was going to say we were pretty close. There's a couple of them that we were kind of shocked. Well, I know I was.
Listen, there's always a couple.
Yeah.
You're never gonna get 100%, but we were easily we probably got like an A- if this was being graded at the high school level.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Maybe a B plus, A-. Yeah, it's not
which is
bad.
better than I got in school anyway. So what the hell?
Yeah.
I
I'm
haven't
take my C grade and get out of here.
So before we even get into the actual roster itself, we got a little bit of Giants news here. First off, a very happy birthday to Mr. Carl Banks. Giants legend, NFL all-time 1980s team member, should be in the Hall of Fame, but the Hall of Fame hates the Giants. We'll still have that episode one day, but he is definitely on that list of should be in the Hall of Fame.
For all our old listeners,
we're losing Rob again. We're losing him. He's frozen in time, and now his picture's gone. And anyway, while we wait for get Rob back here,
can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes. But it's weird because there's like a circle on the screen. It's like you're a talking orb.
I'm an orb. Oh, jeez.
Like Brainiac over here. So let's get into our captains here.
I don't know. Something's going on with StreamYard.
Oh, I don't think it's StreamYard. I'm not having an issue, Rob.
I'll send you the picture. StreamYard
send the picture.
StreamYard gave me the problem here.
Send me the picture. But yeah, so captains here. We got 10 captains, same as last year, folks. 10. That's insanity. It's like 20% of the roster is captains at this point. Oh, there's Rob. We got him back. I'm not sure what happened. He's got something blocking half his screen, but there he is. Captains: Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Darren Waller, Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Bobby Okereke, Adoree Jackson, Xavier McKinney, and Graham Gano. That's a lot of captains.
Gano's the best one there.
Well, Gano is definitely the one guy that you would say is legit, like top 5 at his position there. That's for sure. But let's go with now position by position. Let's give you guys who is making the roster, who was right or wrong as far as that, because we Rob and I had some disagreements on a couple of things. So for the most part, we agreed. We had one or two disagreements there. So let's go to the QB room here first, because the QB room we were dead on. So we said Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, keep, cut Tommy DeVito, and hopefully we get him on the practice squad. So it's exactly what happened. Tommy DeVito is now officially waived. Assuming he cuts through the waiver wire, we can go ahead and sign him onto our practice squad. So, 100% simple, just what we thought. DeVito, I think, made a push to get on the roster potentially, because I think he definitely played better than people thought. But we're not going to keep 3 quarterbacks in the roster. There's too many actual position players you want to keep for positions that you need to have a lot of people on the roster for, secondary linemen, that kind of stuff there. So next up, the running back group, which is one place that Rob and I did disagree on a little bit there. with one
A little bit.
particular swap. One particular swap. We got Saquon Barkley, obviously we're keeping. Matt Breida, obviously we're keeping. Eric Gray, obviously we're keeping. James Robinson, the slowest man alive, has been waived. And then where Rob and I disagreed with the fourth running back spot. He said we would keep Deshaun Corbin. I said we would keep Gary Brightwell. Gary Brightwell is who we kept. So, I mean,
Now,
I think Brightwell.
If you guys listen to your predictions, all I said was Brightwell might be a little more injured than we thought.
But you went and you said
one.
Corbin. You said Corbin. That's what matters.
Yeah.
I didn't disagree that he's injured.
I did.
You said Corbin.
We'll see.
Don't try to revisionist history. One. Don't try to revision. Oh, Saquon Barkley will.
It's no revisionist history. Ooh.
I think that's safe to say that's not a bold prediction that Saquon Barkley is starter week 1. But yeah, Deshaun Corbin, again, another guy I think that we would probably be looking to keep onto our practice squad if we could. We'll have to see if he clears waivers and if he wants to come back to the Giants practice squad for a second year in a row. Next up, we have our wide receiver room. And I cannot believe we didn't keep as many wide receivers as most of us thought. This is a much smaller number than a lot of us thought here we'd keep. We lost Rob entirely. He'll be back in a minute. So Isaiah Hodgins, keeping him. Paris Campbell, keeping him. Darius Slayton, keeping him. Jalen Hyatt, keeping him, obviously. Cole Beasley. Here's one spot where I thought that I would go ahead and be right. We keep him easily. Looks like we're cutting Cole Beasley. But what we're doing is the plan is to put him back up on the practice squad. Because keep in mind, we talked about this in the last episode, difference between a vested veteran and a player that can get waived. So players that get waived go through the waivers. They have to go through clear the waivers before we can go ahead and sign them again, whether it be active or practice squad. Cole Beasley's a vested veteran by a lot. So the rule is that once he's cut. He can do whatever he wants. And the rumor is that's what they're going to do is they're going to cut him. They're going to put him on the practice squad. And he's going to still be on the team later on this year. Keep in mind, he didn't dress the last couple of weeks here. He's been battling an injury. So I think that's really what it came down to is he's still battling the injury. And they have a good enough relationship with Cole Beasley that they trust that he will just sit the practice squad for a week or two, get healthy, and then go ahead and pop back onto the roster when he's ready. I still expect him to be a decent contributor to this team here in the long term.
Yeah, that's a Dabo boy. He's going to follow through. He came out of retirement for a reason. He also went to retirement for a reason, but he also came out of it for another reason.
Yeah, I think that. Like I said, I think that we'll see. I think a little bit more out of the tank for him this year from what he showed last year. That's for sure. But we'll have to see what happens. He's getting up there in age, So you never know what they got left at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked this offseason about how this scheme's going to be so much different than last year. That some of these guys don't have that much left in the tank. That's okay. They don't need to put a lot more out. They're not going to be putting that many miles out there. They just need to pick up a few good plays. That's going to. At just at clutch times, and guess what Beasley does? Puts up good plays at clutch times.
That's exactly what he does. Next up, Sterling Shepard. We kept him. I know a lot of people were thinking he wouldn't stay. Rob and I both called that he'd be on the roster. So the next one is one that I was wrong on. Jamison Crowder was cut. So he was cut from the team. And the big reason I think that happened is Wan'Dale Robinson was activated from the PUP list. So in our talks, we expected Wan'Dale Robinson to end up starting the year on the PUP list. And because he didn't, he took him the spot from somebody else. Happened to take it from Jamison Crowder. So I do think that Wan'Dale is still up in the air, whether he'll be ready week 1, week 2. They just didn't want to start him on the PUP and be missing him for that long. but we'll have to see and keep an eye on that, because now you're talking about we have 5 healthy receivers on this roster, which is crazy considering what we were a couple weeks ago. But they only have 5 healthy receivers on this roster right now. If Wandale can't go, and you got 5 receivers week 1, is that really what you want to go in with?
Well, I mean, once again, we've talked about this offseason. Dalen Waller and Cager both came from that wide out room. When you go with a 22-man package, it's going to set a tone. You go with a 12-man package. Guess what? Do you need 5 receivers out there every play?
Here's my concern. Is it safe to say that Paris Campbell has injury issues over his career?
Oh, you're right.
Now, is it safe to say Sterling Shepard has injury issues throughout his career? Imagine if we go down to 3 receivers. That's an issue.
Correct.
Yeah. And
but
that's my
you
concern.
also are not expecting. You need depth. You're right. But we can't keep 7 guys on this squad.
Oh, I'm not saying 7. I just wanted one more. I just want one more.
I hear you. They're going to have guys on the squad where they can elevate up.
So I think.
More. All right. So Wanda doesn't play week 1. He plays week 2. You get through week 1, no injuries. You're sitting fine.
Well, here's the thing too, as well, is that
or count on injuries to happen.
We don't know what's. Well, you have to predict when you have people that are injured every year. That's a fair assessment. If they're injured every year, you have to
week 1. It. Yeah, but I'm talking week 1. This is week roster.
What time?
We know 100% this roster is going to change.
What week did Shepard get hurt last year? Just saying.
Okay, it's fair enough. Okay, so how? All right, looking at this roster. Looking at this roster, how many snaps do you think he's going to get, or how many times the ball's going to throw at him?
I don't know.
Throwing him. What do you throw?
That's the thing with this wide receiver room. I don't know a damn thing on how many throws each of these players will get to them, because there's not a clear-cut number 1, and I've never seen a wide receiver room like this where you have 5 or 6 players. Let's say 5 or 6, because we don't know what's going to happen with Wandale yet as far as injuries, and there's not much separating number 1 to number 6. There really isn't. All 6 of these players are about the same grade. There's not a single one of these guys you go, oh, this guy can't be the guy. Or, oh, this guy is definitely the guy. Like, these are all guys that are legit NFL players, and they're all good receivers, but they're not great receivers. Nope, as we lose Rob again. He can't disagree with me now, that means. I automatically win that argument by default, that means. Let's move on. Actually, before we do that, we talked so much about it, we didn't get into who we cut and everything there. So we said Jamison Crowder got cut. Colin Johnson got waived. David Sills got cut. Bryce Ford Wheaton, we talked about it last episode, is on the IR. Jaden Mickens is terminated his contract. He's cut. Khalil Pimpleton is waived. Again, we talked about him before. Not a big loss in my eyes. The guy couldn't even make the roster last year. We had no receivers at all. So let's get into the tight ends here. And obviously, Darren Waller's a keeper. Obviously, Daniel Bellinger is a keeper. The big thing was going to be more the reserves. And we talked about this the last couple of shows here going, what are we going to do here? We had Tommy Sweeney obviously had his medical issue there last week. Chris Myrick has hurt his hand in the last game. So in the end, we kept Lawrence Cager because he was the last man standing. We had Daniel Bellinger and Darren Waller as the definites. We were thinking we get a blocking tight end to go position number 3 there. But in the end, Tommy Sweeney's now on the non-football injury list. He was placed on that. Chris Myrick has been put on the IR because of that hand injury. And Ryan Jones has been flat out waived. So we're left with Lawrence Cager. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot worse you can do than Cager. There's a whole lot worse that you can do than Cager. There's also a whole lot better. There's also a whole lot better you can do than Cager, that's for sure. And I think the problem you come in to be is this is one of those positions we might not be done. This is one of those spots that we might look to go ahead and get ourselves another tight end later on down the season, or even here the next couple of days that is a pure blocking tight end. Because I do think it's pretty obvious that that's what the Giants wanted to do, because they got a receiving tight end. They got a blocking / receiving kind of a hybrid. What they needed in the end was to go ahead and get themselves one more player that's a pure blocker at that tight end position. So now instead they end up with two guys who are basically receiving tight ends and one guy who is that hybrid blocking / receiving tight end. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Like I said, I'm not so sure that this is a position we're done at. I would not be shocked at all if we look and get somebody, Ross back and he's shaking his head here.
Yeah.
Wouldn't shock me at all if we go ahead and get ourselves a pure blocking tight end, like a Tommy Sweeney would have been, like a Chris Myrick would have been.
Any updates on Sweeney?
So we were just talking about he was put on the non-football injury list.
That's what I heard. I was just hoping we could hear something.
That's
better.
the same list that Xavier McKinney went on last year when he hurt his hand. Basically, it's just whenever you hurt yourself, you can't play, but it's nothing related to football. Obviously, that football injury he had, it was some kind of medical issue. Again, we can only guess. We don't know yet. I'm sure that'll come out eventually one day, but for right now, we just know it's some kind of medical issue. So, we'll see. Maybe even Sweeney comes back in a couple weeks and takes that spot as the blocking tight end. That's a possibility as well. But especially given how thin we are at the tackle position, we may need a pure blocking tight end at some point this season. So something to keep an eye on as we see people get dropped from other teams and everything, as we see people get picked up over the next couple of days here. What do the Giants do? Because it would not shock me at all, folks, if we get a blocking tight end. All righty, let's go on to the offensive line, because there are so many damn players we had in that position group. It's not even funny.
Oh, yeah.
So we were almost perfect on this group here. Almost perfect. So Andrew Thomas, keep. Evan Neal, keep. Ben Bredesen, keep. Mark Lewinsky, keep. Josh Azudu, keep. John Michael Schmitz, keep. I'm using that because those are the 6 that everybody and their mother knew were keeping no matter what.
Yeah.
So Corey Cunningham got cut. We called that one. Matt Peart, keeping him. We called that one. Here's our first one wrong. Tyree Phillips got waived. And I could not believe
that was a
one.
shocker.
And we're going to get it in a minute who took his spot. But stupado, as the Italians would say here. Because listen, in Shane I trust. In Dable I trust. I don't trust them and follow them blindly, though. I can still sit there and say if a mistake has been made, and this, to me, is a mistake. I think Phillips is a much better player than who we kept instead. Well, again, we'll get into that in a moment here. Marcus McKeithen, keeper. We thought that would happen. Julian Davenport, he's been cut. Here's who they did keep now. Shane Lemieux. I don't know about you, Rob. Do you see it? Am I missing something? I mean, enlighten me, Rob. What am I missing?
He's got some dirt.
Got some dirt on Joe Shane.
Or some massive turf.
He's like, I snuck into your computer and got copies of all your download history. You dirty person.
I'm staying on this team, aren't I? Here's the floppy.
Whoa, it's a floppy, huh?
I just imagine he's an old school computer, even though he's a tech savvy kind of guy.
I was going to say, what is he using? Windows 95 here?
Yeah. I got a zip disk.
Remember that was a big thing when that came out.
100 megabytes.
Like I said, I don't see it. He's not a good player. I've never been impressed by him. He gets injured all the time. And when he happens to get healthy, he plays one game and he's back out again. I don't get it.
I don't know. That's just
Yeah. So Wyatt Davis waived injured. Jack Anderson waived injured. Shard Hollow is cut as well. So we were right for every single position except for the last one. We just had Tyree Phillips instead of Shane Lemieux, and I still stand by that being the better move. But like I said, what do I know? Are you looking for Mike Myers?
I was.
Alrighty, let's get into the comments here before we get into the defense here. So John starts us off with Caddyshack. Well, we're waiting. and Rob, your dad's in the room. Says, hello.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah, I have to use like a British accent for his hello because he looks so distinguished in his Facebook photo. Hello.
He's a scholar.
He says, who can be a good pickup player for our team with cutdowns? We will get into that a little bit later towards the very end, but I think we're going to save some name dropping specifically because of the fact that there's so many players. It's more into what group should we look at. That's more I think we're going to go over there because there's so many players that cut today, and there's so many players that are better than some of the guys we still have. Looking at you, Matt Pert, Shane Lemieux. So there's still plenty of options for us to get.
Unless you're looking at me, I was like, wait a minute.
I'm looking at you, Rob.
Was I missing a Giant salary? Was I missing a Giant salary?
You're getting cut. John tells us the story now. He says, I took my nephew to a Giants game and he got a line to get Carl Banks' autograph. And he's a cow puke fan of all things because of his cocaine using punk ass wife abuser father. Well, hello. He says, I never said that's why I'm a real fan. You're a half-ass fan. I never want autograph any cow puke player. That was it's an interesting story, John. Let me put it this way, though.
Yeah.
If I was at an event, we lost Rob again. But if I'm at an event, okay, and let's say Emmitt Smith is there, hypothetically, I'm going for the autograph. I'm sorry, I'm going for the autograph, and I don't think that's the wrong move. You can respect a player that plays for the Cowboys as long as you root for the Giants when they play them. And the player's autograph you're getting at the team is retired. That's the other thing I'm going to say. He's got to be retired. So I don't know if in your story Carl Banks retired or not yet, but yeah, if he's retired, it's okay. Because you're not going, it's not the enemy anymore. He's the ex-enemy, See, John says, yes, let's get into the tight ends. Kids go to bed. Thus, this just got X-rated, LOL. And then he says, Roberto, I just saw Mike Myers behind you outside your window. Close the drapes, lock the doors. Then he says, hi, Daddy. His Rob's daddy was there. All right. Real quick, before we get into the defense here, we got a lot to go over still with the defense. That's definitely where some of the surprises really were. But we want to also go ahead and go over with you guys again a little bit on the schedule. There was some confusion there today. So tomorrow night we will not be having our typical Wednesday show since we are shooting today. So tomorrow instead, what we're going to do is we're having our monthly Q&A for our members of our Two Giant Goofballs buymeacoffee.com group there. If you haven't joined already, there's still time. You just got to join the group at buymeacoffee.com/Two Giant Goofballs. Then join the Facebook subscriber group, and that's where we'll be posting that Q&A tomorrow. So before we get into the defense there real quick, we are going to shamelessly plug that for a brief second here for you guys.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/Two Giant Goofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. Buymeacoffee.com/Two Giant Goofballs.
All righty, guys. Appreciate that. Let's get into the defense here because I think the most shocking move was on the defense. So we'll get into that in a little bit. We got a couple of groups to go through first before we get into that. First off, let's get into defensive line. Obviously, we're keeping Dexter Lawrence. We're keeping Leonard Williams. We're keeping Ashawn Robinson. We're keeping Raheem Nunez-Roches, a.k.a. Nacho. Then we get into the guys that weren't as, obvious. We're keeping Jordan Riley, which Rob and I both called to have. We waived Ryder Anderson. That's one that I expected us to keep there. We waived him. So who kept his spot? We'll go over that. That's the last guy on our list here. So Kevin Atkins waived. Brandon Bryant terminated. Donovan Jeter waived. Kobe Smith waived. And then the guy we kept, DJ Davidson, last year's draft pick. The guy who basically has not seen the field pretty much his entire career at this point. That's who we kept. And I'm a little shocked by that because I didn't like the pick too much coming into the draft. I think we kind of reached when we went ahead and traded for DJ Davidson, but we kept him. So hopefully whatever the Giants saw in him when they were talking about bringing him on in the draft time and eventually did, hopefully the Giants saw it there preseason again and saw it in the training camp because he was injured for much of that as well. So it's not like they got to see him much. The Giants just have this soft spot for often injured players for some reason. Like I said, I would have kept Ryder Anderson personally. I would have, cut my losses with DJ Davidson, but maybe part of it is because they drafted him, but they've already proven in this year, which we'll get to in a little bit, that just because they drafted you doesn't mean they can keep you. So, but yeah, I think it's a damn good group compared to last year. I mean, you start comparing this group to last year. Holy shnikey. Like when we go into goal line situations and you got Sexy Dexy, Leonard Williams, Ashawn Robinson, Nacho, and Jordan Riley, good luck running the ball. Good luck.
Jordan's come up big time.
Yeah. He's going to be a nice run stuffer, I think, in this league. A guy that, and I don't think he'll ever be a star. Don't get me wrong on that, but I do think he'll be a guy that you can pop in off the bench in obvious rundown, short yardage plays, goal line plays, and he'll be the guy that's clogged the hole and either block the running back from having the hole he wanted or stop the lineman from getting to the linebacker.
Even if he's an average player in this league, we got him at a steal.
Seventh round pick. You get him at the 7th round pick and he's an average player in this league, that's a great pick. Hell, if he's a backup that just makes it in the league, he's a great pickup for us.
Yeah.
Let's call that what it is because that's not something typical. 7th round picks are guys that you just hope will make the roster their first year, let alone actually be on the field at all their first year. So, there's guys that are special teamers, the Cam Brown, Carter Coughlins of the world there, those kind of guys. It's not the guys you expect to actually make it on your roster and do something. And this kid could do something. He could be an important part of, the games at times.
The next Super Bowl run.
The run. From your mouth to God's ears, my friend.
That's why I pointed it up.
Oh, okay. Let's get into the edge defensive end room here. So, Kayvon Thibodeau, we all knew we're keeping him. Azeez Ojulari, all knew we're keeping him. Jihad Ward, again, we all knew we're keeping him. That's where the obvious ones ended. So, as Rob is frozen with a very confused face. So we have O'Shane Zimenez got cut as expected. We called that one. Tamon Fox got waived. I did not think that would happen. I thought he would make the roster. I really did.
No.
But
he played well too this offseason.
He's a guy that pops in when he's
Second enough.
So I'm kind of shocked. But for whatever reason, he just hasn't been able to, I guess, do enough to impress them.
I
but
feel
they
like
kept less.
they
They
might.
kept less in the edge room than I thought. Oop, we lost him again. So we kept less edge players and defensive ends than I expected. That's for sure. Um, but in the end, Timon Fox got cut, and he will not be a New York Giant, at least for now. We'll see if he makes it to the through the waiver wire there and ends up on our practice squad. But for now, Timon Fox is gone. We got Tayshaun Bowser got cut as well. We kind of expected that one. Habakkuk Baldonado got waived. That's a guy I thought might sneak onto the roster, not because he's that good, but to be very frank, I just thought we'd need some extra players there. I thought we'd have a little more edge guys, but they kept less. The big move of the day, though, the big move is Boogie Basham got traded for away from the Buffalo Bills. This is a Bills on Bills trade here with obviously Joe Shane with his connections. Yeah, I mean that's a good move, guys. Though, so I know they just came out lately with the actual what we gave up for him in this whole thing. So if you didn't hear, what we gave up was I know it was just announced initially as a late swap of picks in 2025. We gave up a 5th round. We were given a 7th. So we're going down 2 rounds from 5 to 7 in the 2025 draft to get him. Not a big deal. As long as he actually produces something. And I don't mean be a stud. I mean just at least be a decent backup in this team here. And I think that's what he'll be. So Boogie's got an ability to stop the run and set the edge, much like a Jihad Ward kind of player there. We've been talking about this ad nauseum, where this was the big thing right off the bat, is the Giants wanted to stop the run this year. They had trouble last year doing that in a lot of games. They felt that was a huge weakness of the team. They felt that was an issue that really affected how the season went for them overall, and they wanted to fix it. And I guess they're still at that point where they want to fix it. I don't think he provides a lot necessarily at the pass rush there, but we also thought that about Jihad Ward last year, and he showed a little more last year than I expected. So good pickup overall. Not one that I think is going to be a game changer or anything amazing, but the guy's got a high, level pedigree there. He was a 2nd round draft pick a few years ago, but he was also in a stacked room. The edge room in Buffalo was pretty well stacked there, whereas ours is not. So while he had trouble getting, play time in Buffalo, I don't think he should have any trouble whatsoever getting on the field with the New York Giants. Just not as a starter, as more of a backup kind of player there. So we'll see what he brings there. But Boogie Basham is officially a New York Giant. The trade did go through today. It's not just a rumor, and he is officially on the active roster today. All right, let's get on to the linebackers here. So obviously there were some pretty obvious moves here that we thought were going to happen. To be very frank, one of the obvious ones wasn't so obvious apparently after all. It didn't go through as we expected. Bobby Okereke, we kept him. Isaiah Simmons, obviously we're keeping him. We just traded for him. He's also changing his jersey number, by the way, to number 19. Darian Beavers. This is the big shocker for me. Darian Beavers got cut. He got waived, I should say, because he hasn't been in the league long enough. He's been waived. Assuming he clears waivers, I fully expect him to be a New York Giant this year. Fully expect him to be a New York Giant. But that's if he clears waivers. Everything you're hearing coming out of Giants sources right now is that the issue is that he's just lost his step because of the ACL. Now, whether that's a short-term loss of step or a long-term loss of step, we don't know. Time will tell on that one there. But it's definitely kind of a different feeling than what we expected as far as Darian Beavers here. I expect this guy to be a backup linebacker on this team, get back healthy again, potentially take that starting linebacker spot back that we thought he was, had won last year in the preseason. And instead, you see within a week, Isaiah Simmons gets traded for, and now he gets cut, waived from the team there. So we'll have to see what the future brings for him. Best luck to him wherever he goes. It's a guy we were all rooting for here, that's for sure. Couple guys we also kept. We talked about not keeping a lot of edge rushers and defensive ends here. We kept a lot more linebackers than I expected. That's for sure. To be honest, I think we kept too many. Carter Coughlin got kept. Cam Brown got kept. Two guys that have been on this team here for multiple years. That are basically special teamers for the most part. I know our special teams have been an issue, but they were an issue last year as well with these guys in the team. It's not like these guys made us a good special team squad. I think we're going to have to see what happens here, because those guys might be the guys that go whenever it comes time to sign a couple players. Remember, the Giants got like 5 players last year after the initial 53 was done. I don't expect that again, because I think we have a better team this year than we had last year. But I do expect fully for us to go ahead and get a couple players at a couple positions we're late on, and a couple positions that we're definitely weak at. And it very well could be one of these guys goes. So were you shocked by that as well, Rob? Like we kept Carter Coughlin and Cam Brown?
Yeah. Is survival of the fittest out there, or just good enough with it? Some of the moves today have shocked me, dumbfounded me, and some of it.
Were you also appalled? Were you appalled, Rob? That is the key question.
I was so appalled. Oh, God. Although it wasn't Philly today, I did catch a man wearing a Giants jersey and a Buckethead Giants hat. That was a dedicated man.
Why did you catch him? Was he falling or something?
I was trying to catch him. I was trying to be a good citizen.
Are you just picking up random men in Philadelphia?
Yes.
It is the city of brotherly love.
It definitely is not. That's a terrible slogan for a city.
I feel like that was one of those things that you like. If we keep saying it enough, it'll just happen.
I feel like our forefathers knew the joke. We'll call this city the city of brotherly love.
And like the biggest celebrity, and of course, the biggest, most friendly celebrity from that city was Bill Cosby. We all know what happened there. So that
I was going to go Will Smith. It's not like he just goes around slapping people.
Oh God. All right. So last couple linebackers, Deontay Johnson got waived. Ray Wilborn also got waived. So we ended up keeping 5 linebackers. You and I had 4 of us keeping at that point, and we ended up keeping 2 that we didn't think, and lost Beavers we thought we would keep. This was probably the worst group we had as far as our predictions here go. And
yeah, that's the whole Beaver moves like that. I feel like there's something going on behind the scenes that we can't.
You know what?
We don't know.
I think the writing was on the wall and we didn't see it. And I'm going to admit it that way, point blank. Because if you look at it, originally Micah McFadden had him beat out for the spot. We all thought this was Beaver's spot going into the year. Micah McFadden had him beat it out. We all saw Micah McFadden last year. He's not that good. I'm not trying to disrespect the man. He's a legitimate backup linebacker right now in the NFL. But if he's starting for your team, that's not great. Then we get the Anthony Barr coming in for a visit. Then we get the trade for Isaiah Simmons. That just should have told us there was that much trouble with the linebacker position. And I think we read it more as like, okay, they prefer Beavers and McFadden to be the backups, as opposed to maybe Beavers wasn't back healthy enough. And I think that's what it was. And I almost wish he had a chance to start on the PUP list or something like that and get him a little more healthy. Because keep in mind, he's only a year removed from that ACL injury. He was never a speedy guy to begin with.
Yeah, and he got hurt 53 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah.
So did he come back too soon with his size and his ability to move around? But then at the same time, we're here in week 1. We're hearing when he comes back reporting to camp and OTAs and all this that he looks good. He's moving around. Like, he's the clear number 2 guy.
He
And then
did
it's
look
like
slow in the games.
McFadden and him are looking good, and it's like started doing like this. And I think there's something behind the scenes. Either we don't know.
I think the Giants were just hoping that he would get better. We lost you. We lost your mic, Rob. I think the Giants personally, I think the Giants just were hoping that he would get better as time progressed. And I think that's all that happened. And he just didn't progress, didn't get better. And I think they thought it was just, this is a little bit of rust. I don't think this is rust. This is that post ACL, you're not quite yourself for a little while when you first get back. And while we were big fans of him as a potential long-term piece that could develop, when you haven't developed yet, plus you're taking a step back because of this injury, it just wasn't good enough for him to make the roster. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
But again, I think that we will see him on the practice squad, assuming he clears waivers. I do think they will try to hold on to him that way.
I do think so.
Yeah.
I think it might be like, hey, try to hang on there, Buck. We want you here.
You know what, though? That's the kind of guy you want on the practice squad, a guy that you're hoping is going to get healthier and better, give him a little more time to get better overall, because again, keep in mind, this is his rookie season for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
So perfect guy to have on the practice squad as long as we can keep him. All right. So we got a couple more positions left here. We got to go over the secondary and the special team still. The secondary, whew, there was a couple surprising moves there. Definitely a couple surprising moves. So
yeah,
obviously Adoree Jackson we were keeping. We knew that. We knew that was going to happen. Deonte Banks. I hope you guys didn't buy a Deonte Banks jersey yet, because he's changing his number as well. Changed his number to number 25 now. Trey Hawkins III, Esquire. Of course, we're keeping him. Guy's been a freaking stud, especially considering where we drafted him at. Here comes the first shocker. Darnay freaking Holmes is back on the goddamn roster again. And we don't know the specifics, but we've been talking all off season about Darnay Holmes needs to get cut. He's making too much money. Darnay Holmes needs to go. We're paying him way too much. And we were. If we had kept him at his current roster, his previous contract, I would have flipped the hell out. But he took a massive pay cut from everything you hear. And we kept him. Now, they have not released any specifics whatsoever. But everything that I'm hearing rumor-wise, and Pat Traina just talked about this on the Lockdown Giants podcast, what they think is what it is that he's taking a minimum deal salary-wise. Kept any guaranteed money he had this year. And that way he gets a chance to go ahead and extend his career and hopefully long-term. I think he wants to be here. He's been here for 4 years now. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. He knows here. He's comfortable here. He's probably got a home and he's got a life here. So I did look it up real quick. His guaranteed money was only $200,000. So without knowing the specifics there, because again, we don't know without knowing what was
Northern New Jersey market, that's a nice down payment for a place.
Well, he's probably going to get still like $1 million, $1.2 million kind of thing for this year. He's probably still going to have that kind of number, but he was almost $3 million against the cap though. Instead, originally this year, he was scheduled to be 2.9. So he's still going to probably get less than half of what he was going to get this year, and still get more money than you and I will make in the next 10 years, bro.
Sadly,
but in the end, the Giants kept a player they wanted to keep. He's another guy that I don't think we should have kept personally. I think I've seen enough of him. And I think that's part of what it is with these guys. I've seen enough. Like, I've seen enough Shane Lemieux. I've seen enough Darnay Holmes. I know what these guys are. I want nothing to do with them anymore. But the Giants are trying to look at it more business-minded, going, if we can't just cut players, you got to have a replacement for them.
Yeah,
and I think they had the replacement with Shane Lemieux.
Yeah, and if you know what you got, you're not taking a gamble on it. You know what you got. If what you got's worth it for now until you get something better,
might be worth the gamble.
I would still gamble if it's the guy that worth a gamble on. I'll put it that way. And
That's different. But if you're going to gamble on the guy you might get the same with, is it worth it?
yes, because you took the shot. You tried to improve.
I mean, that's also not necessarily true. Like, all right, so if they're the same talent-wise, but they're not same as a, player-wise, meaning, like, are they a great team player? Do they listen to the coaching staff? Are
Do we
they
know
the guy
Darnay
that sits
is?
in? You don't, but obviously, if he was, you think the Giants would have kept him around? Look what they did with OBJ. If you want to bring up OBJ,
But OBJ was a different regime. You can't go there. And OBJ.
I'm just saying he's so part with the Mara family. Did the Mara family like keep around players long term?
I don't think anybody is going to go and get in a fight with the field goal kicker's net anytime soon again. I think.
I hear you, but Jeremy Shockey was his talent. Did he stick around as a Giant long term?
Nope.
Yeah. Do the Giants organization in the long term have a reputation of not keeping around players that are hotheads, that lose their temper, that have a certain persona about them? They just come here, do your job, play football. So if you know what you got, is it worth a gamble of someone that may be same talent wise, but not the same personnel wise?
There's still middle ground though.
There is middle ground, but I'm just saying sometimes it's not worth a shot. So if you turn around, know what you got in this guy, you feel confident, but you know what you could do with him. Let's wait till next year to see if we get something better.
I never want to go ahead and count on a guy that I know is not the answer. I'd rather take the risk.
So
I'm a risk taker.
You're going to take a risk on someone else that you know it's not the answer. At least you got the answer already.
I don't know about that though. Like I said, I don't know what I got otherwise. I just know that Darnay Holmes is not the answer. So
he's not. Anyone else they would have got at this time this year before the season start?
Watch him get cut still. Watch us get somebody off the waiver wire and he gets cut.
You would just like that. Just be like, look what I said, blah, blah, blah.
I would.
And that's going to happen by the end of the year. If Darnay Holmes has the best year of his career, proves you wrong, you're going to eat your socks.
What is the best year of his career exactly?
This preseason.
I'm just saying. Okay, the rest of it here. Cordell Flott, we're keeping him. Amani Oruwariye, he got cut. Now he's who I thought would take the spot that Darnay Holmes got in the end. Obviously, when Darnay Holmes kept that, they wanted him over Oruwariye. Not that I was a big fan of Oruwariye. I thought he was the best option we had on the roster. That sounds so bad to say, but it's the truth. It's Jamon Green got waived. Darren Evans got waived. Zion Gilbert got waived / injured. So we were pretty much right in what we had. We just had Darnay Holmes and Oruwariye different, but we also didn't know Darnay Holmes was going to take a cut down to go to the minimum salary. Darnay Holmes probably is the best of the option. I just went on this rant, I know, I'm going to still say this. He probably was still the best of the option we had once he took the pay cut. What just annoys me is his replacement should have been gotten before the season even began. I mean, I think we kind of slept on the cornerback room a little this offseason. As much as we made some headways in the wide receiver room, the defensive line room, I do think the cornerback room was kind of the forgotten redheaded stepchild to a certain degree. Obviously, we addressed it pretty heavy in draft time.
I was about to say, that's our number one draft pick was secondary.
Yes, but we also let go of our starting corner. So you didn't strengthen it necessarily. You got rid of, you got Banks now to be the new starting corner. You got Hawkins as well now, who is now obviously our third best corner right now on the roster. But do you trust Flott? Do you trust Holmes?
I'm not saying I'm trusting him, but also, do you trust your third or fourth string receiver?
On our team, yes.
Okay, that's great. What about 31 other teams?
But this is what I'm saying, though. They kind of, I think for a defense with like Winks that is so dependent on corners, I think we just didn't do enough time and energy on getting it's not stars, just people that are better than Holmes. And Flott.
Yeah, they could have done more, but they're also look what they did with the linebacker room. Like, look what they did with other positions, like set it up. You're going to have your safeties coming and helping out some of these corners. You're going to have some.
Some of these safeties will play the corner position. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
Some of them will play the corner position, point blank.
Yeah. So I think, yes, in this particular position, like, could they have done more? Yeah, but I think they made the right moves and switch arounds where they thought was going to be efficient enough for now. Granted, yes, they can still make more.
Well,
but
in the end, the team is better than last year if the rookies pan out.
Correct.
But if they don't, it's worse.
Yeah. Let's talk about that when we get down there.
I'm just saying, I don't like leaving things to chance on what we know is a very important position in the defense.
Even though you just said you're a risk man, you'd rather take a guy that you'd like to use the same amount?
It's a different risk. That's a calculated risk. It's not a calculated risk to go, well, we'll just see if these guys pan out. You had a chance to do something about it. No, because saying, you know what, I got to pick up a player and hope they're better than who I have because who I have is not good, that's a calculated risk. Just saying, I'm going to get a couple rookies even though I know that this position needs a lot of work. That's not a calculated risk.
Let me go pick up the best cornerback in this draft because that's not a calculated risk. That's just me saying, let me throw $100 up in the air and then see what happens.
He was what, the 4th or 5th corner drafted in this draft? I mean, he's not the best. I'm not trying to say he's crud. Okay, we talked about him as a late first round, mid second round pick. We did our draft analysis on him before we got him. So I'm not saying he's crud, but he's definitely not the best.
I'm just saying. So you're saying you're taking that out of a calculated risk, right? So you saw what he did in college. You got tons of tape what this kid did in college.
Yes, and we weren't impressed with
it. It's not a calculated tape. Come over and bring him in. It wasn't a calculated risk. Go pick up Trey Hawkins, the third, if you will. You pick him up late.
You're talking about saying, okay, this is a bad group of ours. We're going to draft 2 rookies at a position that typically rookies struggle at. And that's our plan to fix this group.
So if we go pick up a struggling quarterback in the NFL, how's that much better?
Because you replace crap with something you hope might be better. That's okay.
But you do the same thing.
No, what I'm saying is we didn't do anything enough. What I'm saying is this offseason.
I know what you're trying to say. I'm just trying to say when you draft someone high in the draft,
yes,
you're taking a similar calculated risk than you are of someone that's already failing in the NFL. You pick him up, you're going to pay him more.
Yes.
And you pay him more than what you're going to pay someone on a rookie contract.
I'm not
how much more is to fail there? Like, all right, so you're taking a little more of a gamble on the talent, which has a higher ceiling but way lower debt to your cap, or let's hit the cap higher, which has a way low ceiling on the talent.
But what I'm saying is, we got rid of Fabian Moreau, who did a decent job as a second corner for us last year. And by the way, was picked up very cheaply, might add. Picked up very cheaply later in the offseason.
Fine, keeping them too.
But what I'm saying is, the reason we have guys like Darnay Holmes and Cordell Flott still on this roster, still potentially seeing the field this year, is because we ignored that group in free agency. And I'm not saying to go out and get, the best corner money can buy and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not trying to say that. But if we had re-signed a guy like Fabian Moreau, that would have been a move that would have kept one of these guys from potentially seeing the field. That's all I'm saying. We ignored the group in free agency, a group that's very important to Wings defense.
I mean, that's what we're seeing from the outside going in. They may have seen something else with the talent that they already got.
We'll see. But
that's why they're getting paid the money they do, and this is why we're.
Well, I think it's just a matter of they could only do so many positions this year. I just think that getting at least one veteran corner that we know won't embarrass himself was a mistake. And I'm looking at this, who we have for this final 53. And I'm going, okay, Adoree Jackson, I'm sold on him, obviously. You know I'm a big fan of his work. Doesn't get interceptions, but he's a very good cover corner. Deonte Banks. I don't know what he is yet. He hasn't played a single down in the actual, regular season there. But we know that rookie corners tend to struggle. We know that drafting them in the first round is a 50-50 proposition. That's just historically accurate. We got Trey Hawkins, who has excelled so far based on where he was drafted. Excelled and definitely beaten expectations. But you have a guy that, in the end, if you were counting on him to do that, that was a mistake. He may have done it so far, but if you're counting on a 6th-round corner to be your 3rd cornerback, that's a mistake. And now we're stuck with guys like Cordell Flott and Darnay Holmes. Like I said, I'm just saying
they could have made more moves if they didn't see what they liked.
I just think this is a position that if we leave it as is, could end up being an issue for this team overall. That and the offensive line are the 2 positions that worry me overall. So, like I said, it's
line a little more than the secondary for me, but yeah.
Like I said, it's just an observation there. That's all it is. I just don't like the fact that we're stuck with guys that were in the 4th year of their contract that we've known been crap for years. Should have been gone. Should have been replaced. So, all right, let's get on to the safety room, because the safety room I think we'll be much happier with. Xavier McKinney, obviously keeping. Jason Pinnock, obviously keeping. Dane Belton, keeper. Nick McLeod, keeper. Now, what's interesting is the Giants actually had him listed as a corner when they were listing the 53-man roster on their website. Now, he's been listed as a safety all year. So we're talking about it before, about one of the safeties coming down and helping out in that room. That's going to be the one that I think is going to happen. That's the room that got the guy. I think Nick McLeod is going to be like the Swiss Army knife that goes back and forth, treating the corner, safeties, slot, that kind of stuff. Bobby McCain. Bobby McCain also, we keep him as well. And I think he's another guy that fits that role exactly as well. He can go down to the slot position if need be. He can play free safety. He can play strong safety. He's a guy that can be put in multiple different positions. The shocker, for lack of a better term in this group, the unexpected move to me was that we kept 6 safeties. But I'm very glad we did, because we got the guy that, Rob, you and I were torn so much on this kid. It's not even funny. Javarius Owens, who has looked like he can be a special team contributor and a guy that's shown some spark there in the in the practices in the preseason here. Needs a little time, needs a little seasoning. I guess most rookies do, especially a late round picks guy. So he ends up keeping on the roster as well. So that's the crazy thing. We have 6 safeties, and
that's enough to cover all the receivers.
We've got 5 corners. I don't think I ever remember seeing a roster with more safeties than corners.
Yeah,
I think that's why they moved Nick McLeod back over to corner when they released the rosters, just to say, "Oh yeah, look, we got 6 corners.
We did this right. Don't judge us.
We didn't have too many." But yeah, like I said, I think that's a good move overall. I think keeping Owens was the right move. I'm glad they were able to figure that out. He's the guy that I'm kind of excited to see what he can do. I think he'll be a decent member of the secondary in the long term. Now we'll see how long it takes to get to that long term, because he's a rookie. He's going to have some growing pains. That's life. But
that's life.
Keep in mind, next year, Bobby McCain signed a 1-year deal. You got Xavier McKinney, 1 more year left on his deal. You got a couple spots that could be available where a guy like Javarius Owens can sit back, learn this year, help out on special teams, pop in occasionally throughout the game, and then really make a big splash next year. And I think that's the kind of year we're going to look at for him.
Yeah.
All right. On to the special teams.
Drew's favorite subject. Or mine.
Graham Gano, we're keeping him. Jamie Gillen.
Keeper.
Hey, we're keeping him begrudgingly. Casey Kreider, keeping him. Cameron Lyons, the backup long snapper, obviously was getting waived. No surprises there whatsoever.
Yeah.
I still think we should have brought in a backup punter, though, to compete with. But, we all know my thoughts. I won't go on my soapbox again. The PUP list, there is one player starting on the PUP list, which is interesting. We talked about the issues with the cornerback position because it's a corner. Aaron Robinson will start the season on the PUP list. So that means he is not to be seen for at least, no, he's not getting a puppy. He will not be seen for the first 4 weeks of the season. So remember, he had that leg injury last year. So yeah, needs a little more time. In the end, don't rush it. I'm not a big fan of rushing. We're talking about that. We talked about the Darian Beavers thing. I think he rushed it. I'm not blaming the team. I think Beavers rushed himself because he wanted to be on the field and make the team this year. But
yeah, especially he's a young guy. He's a competitive, active young guy. Like it's any guy at a high level. Not any guy, but a lot of guys. Very common. High level. You want to get back out there. You want to compete because you were supposed to prove last year how great you were and have a starting job this year. Now you might have sacrificed starting job this year, came back to and rushed it off.
Yeah, like I said, I think that in the end, he could be a guy that comes in after a few weeks and potentially, goes ahead and creates a nice, spot for us to maybe lose Flott or Holmes later on this year. I just want them both gone so much. I can't help myself. All right, let's get through a couple comments here, and then we'll get on out of here for the night here. John Anderson says, "Whose voice was that?" That's we did our Two Giant Goofballs buymeacoffee.com/Two Giant Goofball promo there.
My dad.
Yeah, that's a random guy that we're not going to even talk about here. Definitely not a robot voice we got online. Definitely not. Deb says, "How do you know who's the best is before they played it down in the NFL? Wink was beyond throw when Banks was drafted." I'm going based on the pre-draft rankings. I mean, that's the only thing we can do until he does play some downs in the NFL. So I saw your question. I didn't want to even go just off on ours. But again, if you go back to ours, again, we talked about him being a late first round, mid second round player. That's what we said. We also said he was a guy that was being looked at so high because of his physical skills as opposed to what he did on tape at college. Legitimate gripes. He was not as good a prospect. And that doesn't mean he won't be a better player. He was not as good a prospect as some of the guys out there, like a Devin Witherspoon, like a Christian Gonzalez, guys that were like considered top half of that first round. We also were clamoring for Cam Smith over him, even on draft night. So, again, I'm not giving up on him. I'm not saying he can't turn into anything. But PFF had him in that draft. That happened to be the first page I pulled up for cornerback rankings as the 9th best corner in that draft. He wasn't a slam dunk prospect. Stats alone,
no. But Wink saw he saw athleticism, and that's like something he came in for this draft saying that's what he wants out of players. He wants smart, athletic guys that could learn a book. Yeah. And then Russell falls into place.
Banks did all the right thing when he got here. I remember when he was asked point blank, what's the first thing you want to look at tourist wise in New York? He's like, the playbook. I always want to I have no issues with Banks as a person. I just think that, again, you got a late first round pick, which is a good thing. It means we did good last year. But we got a late first round pick, and we picked a position that typically people don't succeed at right away. And we picked a position that is a 50-50 proposition to be a successful pick, because they are. Go back and look at the corners drafted in the first round in the last 10 years. It's 50-50. So for us to count on guys that are rookies at that position, to me, is a mistake. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to lambast Joe Shane or Brian Dable or anybody within the Giants organization. They've done a great offseason overall. But we can still point out places that they might have slacked a little bit. That's a fair assessment, I think.
Well, I mean, you already said who's the fourth corner to be picked, so that's saying there's 2 corners in that top first round that's going to be good this year by your math. Let's put it on black and let's ride. Let's go. Play a little roulette.
I got to really look at it, to be honest with you. I don't know. Was he the fourth? I mean, obviously, I know Gonzalez and Witherspoon went before him. Forbes went to the Commanders before him. I think he may have been the fourth one, but I'm not 100% positive on that. So
I was going off what you said. So
like I said, I may be wrong in that. I'm just trying to do that in my head.
You said it pretty confidently, so I was just going with it.
I think that's where he's at there. John says, my connection worse than Roberto's, but I see he's missing too.
Yeah, I don't know if the Hurricanes come to New Jersey or to Florida.
Listen, I'm literally smack dab in the middle of this hurricane right now. Like that's the crazy part. I was worried that I'd be the one having connection issues during this podcast here today, because for those who are looking at the live feed here, that's my current radar. For those of you know where Florida is at that point there, if you look under that where it's got that interstate symbol you can see on the screen, that right under there,
that
Tampa
green
area.
And that yellow.
I'm in that red and yellow. Like, this is the strongest part that I'm probably going to see the storm. But, luckily I don't live right on the water. And this is why I don't live right on the water, because I don't want to deal with these issues. It's just a bad thunderstorm here that I have to make sure things that can go flying from big wind are secured. So the chickens are in the garage.
I'd say like a chicken.
The chickens are in the garage. They're fully safe, and all the lawn furniture is picked up and stuff like that. And again, people that can see the live feed, this is my chickens in the dog crate in the garage at that point, because we had to keep them safe. Let's see. Dakota says, nerds.
Bunch of nerds.
Nerds. They could never do that movie nowadays.
No.
So I know your dad asked before about who to pick up and who we might be interested in. I'll say this, because of the fact that literally just went down today, guys. I don't have specific names for you guys. We've spent all day looking at what the Giants were doing more than what other teams were doing. There's just so much going on today. I will say that I think the cornerback room is a spot that we can look at. I know Desmond King got released by the Texans, so I think that might be an interesting spot. We talked about the offensive line issues for the last 20 years, it feels like. If you want to take a chance on a guy that's drafted pretty high and hasn't developed, Alex Leatherwood got cut by the Bears. That be a guy that I would take him over Shane Lemieux and just, see what we got basically overall. I mean, otherwise, there's nobody really that's like jumping off the screen from me from things I've seen so far. But like I said, those two names specifically are ones that I would look at. Now, Desmond King is a vested veteran, so he can sign anywhere. Alex Leatherwood's got to make it through the waiver wires because he's only a couple years into the league. He won't make it through without somebody picking him up. I don't see that happening. We're very high up on the waiver wire because we've taken a couple guys, so I don't expect us to get him. But like I said, Desmond King, that might be a good option overall. 28 years old, so he's still, I wouldn't say he's the spryest and youngest corner in the room, but he's still not a guy that is old at that point there. He's played in the slot before. He's played outside. So he's a guy that likes to go ahead and move around the field. Wink likes that. So if I'm going to pick one guy, I'm going to say Desmond King is the guy that I'd love to see picking up a Giants uniform there, especially if it means we get rid of Darnay Holmes or Cordell Flott. I know I mean I can't help myself. But yeah, like I said, we'll kind of see later on the week. So again, guys, we'll be back on tomorrow night. for a Wednesday edition. But keep in mind, the Wednesday will not be the regular Wednesday edition. The Wednesday edition will be specifically for the people who have signed up for the membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. So if you signed up, you're in. Go to the subscriber group on Facebook. You search 2 Giant Goofball subscriber in the Facebook groups. It'll pop right up. Once we know that you've signed up the membership, you'll be let right on in. And like I said, you'll be good to go. We'll be on there tomorrow night, guys, at 9 p.m. We'll see where I'm from. I might be live from here. But I also may be at my cabin at the lake here, depending where the storm goes. I'm trying to get out of Dodge where I can, because I was supposed to leave today for vacation, and instead I'm stuck here to make sure everything's okay here during the storm here. So again, hope to see you guys all tomorrow night at there. But if not, like I said, listen, we appreciate you guys either way. If whether you do the membership or you're just a regular listener, I don't want to make it seem like that. We appreciate everybody who's on here. We appreciate everybody subscribing, following, sharing with friends and family and all. We'll be back on with our regular show some point later on this week, guys. I'd love to give you guys the exact day, but I don't know, because what we have to figure out first is what's going to happen with the waiver wire pickups and stuff the Giants will do, because they're going to do it. They're going to get some people. So, keep an eye out. The best way is hit the follow, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell. That's how you know when new episodes come. Ding, ding, ding. I mean, my phone even alerts me that we're going live, which is funny because my phone is set to my personal account. So I don't think my phone realizes that I am one of the Giant Goofballs. So it's just like, hey, the 2 Giant Goofballs are live. So it just alerts me automatically.
It's hysterical.
Your phone can do that as well.
Hey, you're going live. Hey, 2 Giant Goofballs is going live. Hey, on all the platforms. We're linked on. I'm like,
oh yeah, and yet you're still late sometimes.
So much for AI.
All right, guys. So we'll see some of y'all tomorrow night here. And then, like I said, we'll see you guys, the rest of y'all, later on this week. So keep an eye out for that last episode as we go over whoever we pick up and make changes on later on this week. As always, Giant fans, appreciate you listening in. Remember, we are always live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Rob's favorite, of course, my LinkedIn profile. We're, of course, we're, of course, on the audio platforms, usually about a couple hours after we have our initial broadcast. Thanks to our audio listeners, by the way. We actually broke our record on the audio platforms here for most downloads for an episode. We've done that twice this month, actually. But the latest one that is broken the record now, the new king of downloads for the audio only, is the predicting the Giants 53-man rosters. That's just a couple of days ago, guys. And that's already the most popular episode we ever had. So, we love the fact that we're seeing more and more people listening and downloading and all as the season starts getting a little closer here. It keeps us going, guys. And
we're pretty good at predicting the roster.
Keep the downloads coming, keep the likes coming, the watches going. Very much appreciated, guys. And of course, as always, Giant fans, go G-Man! Go G-Man! G-Man! Go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to 2 Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support. If you made it this long, you must have enjoyed it. So I am sure you have followed us on all the social media platforms. Of course, you have subscribed to the show on your favorite app as well and given us a top rating. Right? Right? Right?
Thank you to those who have signed up for our silver gold levels of membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.